Why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had.
That was President Trump downplaying concerns about the economy tonight, as Americans have been struggling with the cost of groceries, which in September were 1.4% higher than they were when President Trump took office back in January. Here's what the White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said when I pressed him on where this data that the White House is relying on is coming from today. When the president says that grocery prices are down, what numbers is he basing that off, given that's not true, and even Marjorie Taylor Greene has acknowledged that it's not accurate?
Right. Well, I guess the question, inflation is down. It's one of those things that very often when people talk about economics, they slip derivatives, as we say. And so the point is that inflation is way down. It averaged 5% under Joe Biden. It's running at about 2.5% right now. And the thing, though, is that people's purchasing power dropped by more than $3,000 because of the inflation in the last 4 years. It's up by about $1,200 this year. And so purchasing power is improving, but we haven't closed the entire gap, and that's why people still feel the pain of the higher prices.
Grocery prices are up.
Well, not everything. I mean, egg prices are down. We used to talk a lot about those. In fact, it was your first question here at the White House. Why haven't you covered the lower egg prices?
About household prices, we certainly have covered that. Energy as well, but grocery prices are up about 1.4% since Trump took office.
Which is a big decline in the rate of inflation.
But the
of
president
grocery
is saying
prices.
that they're down and they're up.
Inflation is down, is what he means.
To be clear, inflation is far below the crisis level of 9%, that rate that it hit during the summer of 2022. Inflation has been on the rise again, though, lately, and prices rose 3% in September over the last 12 months. That's the fastest pace since January, and inflation is not virtually non-existent, as the president has stated multiple times. Tonight, my political sources are Van Jones, who is a former Obama administration official, and David Urban, who is a former Trump campaign advisor. And so, David, obviously, I think one question people have is how the president addresses something that he ran on and pledged to take care of when he was in office. But how does he address something if he keeps saying it's not even an issue?
Yeah, Kaitlan, well, I think it's definitional. As you had that little back and forth with Kevin Hassett there, it's how you look at things, right? Whether inflation is down, prices are slightly down, real purchasing power maybe up a bit. But what really matters, as Van knows from sitting next to me on those nights when Democrats lose, is that how American people feel at home. How do the people feel at home who are sitting around their kitchen table with their checkbooks? How do people feel when they're checking out of the grocery store? That's what matters. Poll numbers don't matter. Those numbers that matter are how Americans feel. And so if they're told that real purchasing power is growing and inflation is down, but yet they feel differently, that's the most important thing. And Republicans need to pay attention to that, because Democrats have gotten spanked on it time and time again. Republicans were the beneficiaries. And we got to be paying attention to it as we move into 26 and surely 28. Otherwise, Democrats will steal that issue of affordability right from under our noses.
Well, Van, I wonder what you make of that. And also the president now saying that he's going to send these $2,000 checks to Americans from tariffs that they've collected. He said a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Erica York, who is the vice president of the federal tax policy, the Tax Foundation, said if the president sent $2,000 checks to the 150 million people who make less than $100,000, it would cost $300 billion, even though the tariffs are only projected to raise about $217 annually.
Look, he's got to do something. I'm not going to turn down the check if it gets to me, and no American will. But why is he talking about this stuff? It's because he looks terrible right now. Right now, you've got Americans who are suffering, and for him he's playing this very badly. To say that Americans are just making this up, people are hurting and uncertain economically right now. And if you look at him, what's he doing? He's gallivanting all around the world trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. He's tearing up the White House to put in gold toilets. He's enriching himself with crypto dollars. And he's hanging out with trillionaires who want to basically use technology to take everybody's jobs and give people's jobs to robots and AIs. This does not look like the working class friend president that he ran as. And if somebody doesn't pull his coat and tell him, dude, you look terrible, and the stuff you're saying right now makes no sense to most people, he's going to hand us this issue. I hope he stays exactly where he is. Now, if he wants to send me a check, I'll take it. I'm not mad about that. But the reason that he's talking about this is because he's got to find some economic populism to get back to, because for the past year, The economic populist dude was gone, and the global globetrotter trillionaire friend was hanging out in the White House, tearing it up.
Yeah, Van, I don't think you're getting that check, but we'll see what happens. But on this, David, and I want to note right now, because we've been tracking this vote closely all night. We're watching Senator Susan Collins. We're watching Senator Susan Collins on the right side of the screen. The Senate has just finally passed this bill to reopen the government. Obviously, now it's got to go to the House as those members are making their way here to Washington. But this is a huge step forward and ending this 41-day government shutdown. And everyone keeps saying Democrats are caving, that they've lost their power they had on this. David Urban, though, I do wonder, by not solving the subsidy issue or coming up with a solution to it, is this in the end going to benefit Democrats potentially? Could Republicans have taken care of this and not had it as an energizing issue for Democrats?
No, I think, look, I'm pretty consistent on this point. This whole crisis exists because of one person and one person only, Chuck Schumer. If Chuck Schumer would have decided to go differently on this CR and said, hey, we're going to go for a clean CR, we want to have a discussion about health care subsidies, health care prices moving forward, we'd like a vote on a date certain. Otherwise, this is going to hang around Republicans' necks like a millstone. I'm pretty certain he could have gotten there. Unfortunately, Chuck Schumer decided to not do that. He decided to hold his breath, hold his caucus together, and say, we're going to win this. 6 weeks later, Democrats walk away with nothing other than a vote certain on a bill, which I'm sure is going to not pass, because all it does is throw more money at a problem. It continues to increase these healthcare costs, which are untenable. You just can't throw money at it. You have to try to bend that curve. You heard Speaker Johnson talk about it. You heard the president talk about it. I think there is space there for some sort of deal, but just throwing money at it isn't going to make anything better.
Van, what do you say to that?
I see it differently. Look, right now, Democrats are going to kick each other and tear each other up and be mad at each other. But when the smoke clears for most Americans, something has been proven here. Republicans are just not that into Americans right now. I mean, how much pain were the Republicans willing to let Americans suffer so they didn't have to? They're just not that into America. They were willing to let planes fall out the sky. They're willing to let children starve. They're willing to let federal workers get evicted from their houses rather than sit down and cut a deal on health care. Like everything that David Urban just said is correct. There's a smarter, better way to do health care. And an opportunity was put forward this past 6 weeks to sit down and talk about it. Republicans didn't do it. They were willing, Donald Trump and Republicans were willing to let planes fall out the sky and children starve before they came to the table. So when Democrats get finished beating themselves up, look at the tattoo you just put on the Republican Party. They don't care about your health care. And so I think take the win on this, Democrats, and keep moving. You had 7 million people in the streets. I'll give you your turn. But you had 7 million people in the streets. That's a good thing. You kicked their butts last week when it comes to the vote. That's a good thing. And you just exposed these guys as not caring about regular Americans. I think that's a good couple of weeks for Democrats, but we're still going to be mad at each other about it for no reason.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I would just say quickly, Van, to your point, listen, those subsidies were put in place during COVID. We had the entire Obama administration to discuss these things and to talk about it. Yet the Biden administration has talked about these things, about the Obama health care subsidies. Nobody chose to bring it up then. Unfortunately, they kicked the can down the road knowing that it was tough to do. And only one person is to blame for the American suffering here, Chuck Schumer.
Donald Trump.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Van Jones, David Urban, thank you both for joining us here tonight.